Hello and welcome to Monday's Granada Reports, live with the latest across the northwest.
Hello on the programme this evening.
Stabbed through the heart by his friend, an inquest opens into the death of Yusuf Mackie. His family say they still want justice.
The mother of Martin Hett, who died in the arena bombing, calls for an end to press intrusion.
It was absolutely brutal the way my children, they were completely inundated on all their social media platforms non-stop.
As COVID restrictions are lifted and America reopens its borders, we're here at Manchester Airport to see the first flight take off in more than 19 months.
The three men whose lives were changed by conflict and what the poppy means to them.
And 9-year-old Oliver Smith from Lytham has landed his very first festive feature film. And you've got a bit of an idea of how to disguise yourself around Lytham, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Yes, he has. Find out what it is at the end of the programme.
Lots to come on the programme. But first this evening, the sister of a schoolboy who was stabbed through the heart by his friend has told an inquest that her brother was a peacemaker.
Yusuf Mackie was just 17 years old when he was killed by Joshua Molnar during a fight in Hale Barnes 2.5 years ago.
Today, after many delays, an inquest into his death finally got underway.
Our correspondent Rob Smith joins us live now from Stockport Coroner's Court. And Rob, what more can you tell us?
Yusuf was indeed a peacemaker, in the words of his sister to this coroner's court today. Not someone, she said, with a temper, not someone, she said, with an interest in knives. Jada Coombe was giving evidence to this inquest more than 2 years after her brother was stabbed through the heart in that fight. The scholarship pupil at the £12,000 a year Manchester Grammar School stabbed by a friend, Joshua Molnar, who was also 17. Now, Molnar was cleared of both murder and manslaughter after telling a trial jury that he acted in self-defence. He did admit perverting the course of justice by lying to police initially about what happened and did admit possessing a knife. He received 16 months in custody. Another friend who was with the pair that day, Adam Chowdhury, also admitted possessing a knife but was cleared of perverting the course of justice. He got 4 months in detention. Miss Acoom told the court today that her brother's death had left a huge void in her family's lives, and that they miss him every single day. She said that Yusuf's nephew now wants to take up Yusuf's dream of becoming a heart surgeon. He wants to fulfil the ambition that was denied to his uncle. And there were words too from Yusuf's late mum, Debbie. Her words read to the court by the coroner, in those words describing her son as sociable, as popular, as someone with a love of knowledge. She talked about scrimping and saving to get together the £1,000 for the uniform at that prestigious school, and she spoke of the moment that police knocked on her door to tell her what had happened. There was medical evidence today as well, a pathologist telling the coroner about Yusuf's injuries. The blade, he said, had gone through the cartilage of the teenager's chest, straight through his heart, had gone into his diaphragm and liver beyond. Only a blade that was held firmly was how the pathologist put it, could cause such damage. And there was a statement from a cardiothoracic surgeon who lived right near where Yusuf was stabbed. He rushed out to help, did what he could, even performed open heart surgery in the back of the ambulance, but all of that was to be in vain. This inquest is scheduled to last for a fortnight. The coroner stressing today that it will not be a rehash of the criminal case. She says that she is here to answer coroner's questions, and coroner's questions alone about Yusuf's death, in her words, who, when, where and how.
OK, Rob Smith, thank you. Next night, the family of a man from Blackpool who died when a passenger plane was brought down over Ukraine in 2014 have described the agony of losing him to a Dutch court.
Glenn Thomas was among 289 people who died when flight MH17 came down. It's thought it was shot down by pro-Russian rebels.
Well, today, Glenn's sister Tracy Withers and his nephew appeared in the trial of 4 people to give their witness impact statements. Tracy told the court that losing a twin had been like losing her right arm.
Well, next, and the mother of the victim of the Manchester Arena terror attack has joined survivors and bereaved family members calling for an end to what's been described as endemic media intrusion.
Vegan Murray's son Martin was one of 22 people killed that night and says the public would be shocked by the pressure grieving families are put under.
A 2-year study, including a survey of 116 survivors of the Arena bombing, recommends a list of measures to protect survivors and prevent future attacks.
They include no contact with the bereaved and seriously injured for at least 48 hours after an attack.
No pictures of victims should be used without permission from the family.
And the creation of a new system to confirm deaths once families have been informed and able to tell their loved ones.
Well, I spoke to Fegan earlier and began by asking her about her experiences with the press.
So 2 events spring out. When the attack happened on the Monday evening, on the following morning, my husband and I went to the Etihad Stadium because that's where we were told to go for information and support, and obviously we needed to have information. And at the time we left my 2 youngest daughters, who were the only ones still living at home, and they were at the time 16 and 19, and about 10 o'clock, so we left very early, and about 10 o'clock the doorbell went and my 16-year-old opened the door, and she literally opened the door to a journalist who said to her, I'm so sorry for your loss. Do you want to talk to me about your brother? What was he like? I feel that as a mum or as a parent, the choice of us telling our daughter that her brother had died was completely taken away. The second one was about 3 months after the attack. We were in London picking up an award on Martin's behalf, and after picking up the award we were asked to go backstage for some press photos. And we were approached by a journalist offering to do an interview, and I said, no, thank you. And they said, oh, it won't take long. And I said, no, thank you. And I walked away, and then this person came and said, look, we're going to be writing about Martin anyway. You can either sit down and do an interview, but if you don't want to do it, that's fine. We'll just have to make something up. My head went into a panic, thinking, oh my God, what are they going to write? What lies might they write? So I had no choice but to sit down and talk about Martin. Looking back, I felt really bullied into that interview.
You spoke a little bit about the immediate aftermath. It would have made a difference if you had a police officer at your door.
It would have helped us as a family greatly had there been maybe a police officer at the front door to stop all the media intrusion. Not that it was just knocking on the door. We also had a lot of social media intrusion, to be frank. It was absolutely almost brutal the way my children, all through that day, while we were at the Etihad Stadium, they were completely inundated on all their social media platforms, non-stop. Photos of the Facebook, Twitter accounts, all these social media accounts that were lifted from social media and put into news articles, both on TV and in the papers. Often photos I hadn't even seen yet of my dead child, or family photos that I hadn't seen with my dead child included. And what is so upsetting is that some of these photos actually are connected to a private personal story, and I had no control. And when I did challenge somebody once, they said to me, well, Martin was out there in the social media world constantly, so what's out there is up for grabs. And I'm thinking, well, Martin died, and we were not out there like Martin was. We were more private, and nobody asked us if that's okay or not.
And in terms of footage of a terror suspect, many would argue that it's up to journalists to report what is said and what is seen in court.
I mean, we didn't have the television or radio on because it was constantly on the news. But eventually somebody would switch it on randomly, and you'd walk past the television and there's yet again the photo of the terrorist. And a lot of the families from the Arena attack found it quite hurtful and upsetting, having all the photos of the 22 victims, and then either the photo of the perpetrator was on the same page, sometimes even in the middle of it, and sometimes in some newspapers it was on the opposite page. So when you close the paper, the terrorist is basically kissing the 22 victims, which is kind of insensitive. And you may think, is it really? Well, when you're bereaved, it really is quite offensive.
Vegan, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And we're on track for some pretty mild temperatures for this time of year over the next few days, but are we guaranteed any sunshine with those temperatures? Full forecast a little later on.
Right, well, next night, and for the first time in almost 2 years, planes have left Manchester Airport heading for the USA.
Yes, from today, American borders reopens to travellers who've been double jabbed.
As we'll see some families finally reunited and others eventually getting those dream holidays that were all booked so long ago.
Yeah, it's also welcome news for businesses, of course. More than 3 million passengers cross the pond from Manchester every year, boosting the Northwest's economy and tourism industry in the process.
Well, Mel Barham was at the airport to see those long-awaited first flights take off.
The bunting was out and the new terminal was decked out in red, white and blue as passengers to the US were given the warmest welcome back. This, the first flight to America since the pandemic began almost 2 years ago. Virgin Atlantic flights left Terminal 2 to Orlando and New York. And for those on board, there were plenty of reasons to be excited.
Our son lives in Florida. We've seen him and his wife and our 2 grandchildren.
One we haven't seen.
Yeah, one we've not seen.
How emotional is this going to be if you've not seen?
Yeah. Pretty emotional, yeah. So it will be good.
Our parents moved over a couple of years ago, so we haven't seen them since like pre-COVID. Looking forward to it. Can't wait. Just on the phone to them last night and everyone's excited, so I can't wait.
The wedding, it's been planned for 18 months, so we booked the flight in December last year, so it's been like that, but anyway, relax now and enjoy it.
How are you feeling about finally being able to go?
Good.
Excited.
Good.
We've had a book since 2019. We had to cancel in April, so it was just as the pandemic started.
I'm going for a business trip. We couldn't get training or get to, contact our colleagues in person and have some meaningful discussions, so this is quite important.
We're just so excited. It's just wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But we won't believe it till we sat on the aeroplane.
Before COVID, more than 3 million passengers a year crossed the pond from Manchester Airport. Today's reopening of America's borders being hailed by the aviation industry as a major milestone.
It's great to see the links between the northern region and the US finally come back. And it's not just about holidaymakers. It's great for international trade, it's great for inbound tourism as well, and it'll make a big difference to the northern region, for the local economy as well. It's not just about the airport, it's about the northern region really.
We do still need international aviation, particularly for business, and rather than it having to go via Heathrow or via other airports in Europe, that direct connectivity from Manchester Airport is particularly critical because it gives the north of England, the northern powerhouse, a competitive advantage when seeking to attract investment or to build those links over in the States.
Adult passengers travelling to the US will have to be double jabbed and provide proof of a negative COVID test. But those we spoke to today, just glad they were finally getting away. After 600 days without a single flight to America, this is an incredibly significant day here at Manchester Airport. And as this plane finally taxis away, it takes with it not only the excitement and relief of holidaymakers, business travellers and the travel industry as a whole, but also the hope that there is some sense of normality finally returning. And with more routes to the States expected to be added in the coming weeks and months, those in the industry are hoping today's flights will serve as the right metaphor for the direction of travel. Mel Barham, ITV News, Manchester Airport.
Wonderful to see all those wonderful reunions and celebrations for those passengers.
Just makes you want to go on holiday, doesn't it?
Just, yeah. Now, with the Remembrance Day being held later this week, of course, many services across the region last year were cancelled due to COVID.
Yeah, this year it's a very different picture, though. And Paul Crone's been to meet 3 Army veterans for whom wearing a poppy is more important than ever.
Three Army veterans, all who lost an upper or lower limb during service, and all who've had their own painful personal journey to lead a happy and healthy life. 63-year-old Martin Burns from Hornby near Lancaster served with the Parachute Regiment until a disastrous accident which resulted in his left arm being amputated.
We was doing a low-level night drop, and basically there was, the old World War II area type shelters. I just hit the bricks of the corner of one of them and crumpled into it with my chest and broke both my arms, fractured my sternum down the middle and ribs and so on and so forth.
Martin's lifeline has been the Specialist Mobility Rehabilitation Centre at Preston's Shara Green Hospital. Here he meets other veterans and can reflect on this year's Remembrance Day.
This time of year, even if you was in the middle of nowhere, you've got to remember, and you always remember up here, and you remember here.
Like Martin, 73-year-old Bob Thornthwaite from Chorley served with the Parachute Regiment and lost his left leg during a parachute jump.
It was a St Valentine's Day, believe it or not, and we jumped in the morning and there was another jump in the afternoon, and I'd said to the lads, there's a do on at the Mnaffy, so I'm going to pretend I've hurt myself, so I'm not going to do the last jump. And what happened? Wasn't a pretend, I hurt myself.
The veteran feels there's a danger that the younger generation is losing sight of the Poppy Appeal and Remembrance Day.
The only thing they think about is Afghanistan, the Falklands. They don't go back to the World War I. And that's what they should find out about.
50-year-old Craig Blakesley from Atherton lost his right leg after a training accident on Salisbury Plain, an injury which still plagues him.
I've got severe phantom limb pain. So I've still got my leg. My mind thinks I've still got my leg and it's trapped. Or there's an alligator got hold of it and it's crushing it and it's been, it's absolutely, you can't describe it to people. I get my pain in my foot that's not there.
Lockdown hasn't helped either.
I've been lucky because I've been able to come here for rehabilitation. Fantastic, which was great. Without that, I don't know how I would have managed being kept in the house 24/7 for such a long period of time.
But like the other vets at the rehab centre, Craig still feels passionately about wearing a poppy.
My great-granddad was at the Battle of the Somme in the First World War. So I always think of him, what they went through. And would that happen today? Would we all go over the top? In this day and age, I don't think we would. I think we'd say, no chance. I gave there tomorrow for our today.
Paul Crone, ITV News, Preston.
Well, earlier today, the Speaker of the House of Commons, Chorley MP Sir Lindsay Hoyle, opened a garden of remembrance at Parliament. The special garden marks 100 years of remembrance, and MPs are invited to pay tribute to individuals or regiments in their constituency by planting stakes. When it's complete, it should represent all 650 constituencies.
Hundreds and hundreds of crosses with individual, and this is what's so important. On each cross will be an individual message to say on behalf of a constituent or constituents, or mine, it is for the fallen of Chorley, and that's who I am laying that cross today.
Right, well, here's what's still to come on the ITV News at 6:30 with Mary Nightingale.
I'll bring you the very latest from Westminster on the sleaze allegations engulfing the government. Plus, the racism scandal at Yorkshire County Cricket Club. The new chairman urges urgent and seismic change. The shark attack in Australia, which killed a British man, his family paid tribute. And how Strictly's Rose Ayling-Ellis has inspired fans to learn sign language. Will you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
All next, and believe it or not, it is just 47 days away. Soon enough, many of us will start thinking about watching those festive favourites to get us in the mood for Christmas.
It's coming up, isn't it? Well, this year there's a new film on the block starring a new kid on the block, a little boy from Lytham, in fact.
Oliver Smith, who's just 9 years old, is about to become Netflix's newest star, appearing alongside a star-studded cast including Sir John Cleese and Liz Hurley in Father Christmas is Back.
Well, it's not a bad cast list, is it, for his first ever feature film? And our entertainment correspondent Caroline Whitmore has been to meet him.
Christmas at Durham Manor.
Father Christmas is Back is the latest festive feature film on Netflix about a dysfunctional family getting together at Christmas. And it's an all-star cast, including Liz Hurley, Sir John Cleese, Kelsey Grammer, Chris Marshall
and me!
9-year-old Oliver Smith from Lytham.
Oliver, I have put on my festive jumper, especially for you. How does it feel to be in Father Christmas is Back?
I feel really excited because, like, I didn't actually think I would be in a movie, and I'm like, even if it's like not a good movie, I would still be in shock. But this seems to be like a really good movie, and I think they're doing a follow-on movie, but I'm not sure I'm supposed to tell anybody about that.
Keep it a secret, don't worry.
Morning, Grandma.
Good morning, Henry.
I'm bursting with pride. I can't tell you. It's amazing. It's just an unbelievable experience that I can't actually believe is happening. He's done lots of different adverts. He's with an agency in Manchester, Screams, but this just came out of the blue.
And how did you feel watching him? You know, you were all sat around last night. How was it watching your little
It was
brother?
very surprising because the first time I didn't really concentrate. I was just concentrating on Oliver.
Is my present in there?
Touch it again and I'll kill you. This bag is worth more than your kidneys.
Who were you most starstruck by on the set?
John Cleese, Caroline Quinton, they were really nice to me. I recognised Kelsey Grammer from Toy Story. I knew John Cleese from Garfield. When I was with John Cleese, he kept on teaching us different jokes to do. So it was like, he told us to like pat someone on the back and then duck down when they look behind.
He's a trickster, that John Cleese,
Yeah.
isn't it? Which is your favourite scene?
Probably the end scene where me and Emily were sitting on the stairs of the old people's home and it started to snow. That was really, really cool.
What did you do between takes to keep yourself occupied?
Well, I used to draw.
Do you think you want to be an artist when you're older or an actor?
I mean, just throwing that out there, maybe I could be someone who's in a movie but
Yes.
playing as an artist.
Your snow globe has been signed by them all.
We got it at the end of the filming. It was like, are you sure this is supposed to be for us? Because I feel like we're not that special.
If you're wandering around Lytham, what are you going to do if people recognise you?
It might be pretty weird at people like maybe running after me.
And what disguise would you do?
Face mask.
Yeah.
Sunglasses.
Of course.
Hoodie.
Boom.
With a hood up.
So if anyone sees anyone with this around Lytham, it's Oliver Smith. Merry Christmas in November.
Thank you.
Yeah, some big names in that film, but Oliver is clearly, hands down, the star.
We've not seen the last of him. Definitely not.
I think not.
He was scary with the weather.
Now that is brew weather. And only boiling what she needs.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Big up you, sis.
Hello, a very good evening to you. Today and tomorrow's weather quite similar in that we get the best of the drier and clearer conditions in the south of the region first thing, especially down towards parts of Cheshire and the High Peak. But weather fronts threatening from the north and west, clouding things up and outbreaks of rain pushing through. So this was the story first thing today. As the afternoon progressed, cloud thickening from the west and eventually outbreaks of rain pushing into northern parts, one or two heavy pulses over higher ground. But where that leaves us for tonight is quite a lot of cloud around. Mist and murk over the hills, some poor visibility and the continued risk of some showery outbreaks here, especially in the north, the Isle of Man and parts of Cumbria by dawn. We're milder tonight. We were quite chilly last night in low single figures. We could stay in double figures, certainly in towns and cities overnight. But those winds starting to freshen and becoming really quite gusty as we head towards dawn. 7:25 and 4:23 are your sun times as we head into Tuesday. So limited brightness first thing, further south and east you are. But this system will push its way through, generating cloud, mist and murk over the hills and some dampness. Outbreaks of patchy rain, but some heavy pulses possible over the hills. And then we could see some limited brightness right at the end of the day in the north to parts of Cumbria and the Isle of Man. We're mild, 14, maybe 15 Celsius, good 4 or 5 degrees above what we'd expect for the time of year. And those winds will be quite windy to start the day, but they will ease, becoming just quite blustery and breezy by the second half. Hopefully that system will push its way southwards for Wednesday. So scattered showers, sunny spells, mostly dry. Thursday looks okay, clouding it from the northwest Friday, but mild by day and by night.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
2 sugars, please. Oh, lovely.
Well, that is all for Granada Reports this Monday evening.
On tomorrow's programme, we'll be following the build-up towards Remembrance Day, including the plans for a memorial in Liverpool to pay tribute to the youngsters affected by war.
And they captivated the country back in 2014 when they went on display at the Tower of London. How the cascading poppies have found their permanent home in Manchester.
Well, I'll be back for the later bulletin after the news of 10. But for now, though, have a lovely evening. Enjoy.
Bye-bye.